Hi knitters, it's Mimi with Pastiche Knitwear, and today we are going to frog our work, which means we're going to take this completely off the needle. We're going to tear out a few rows. We're going to put it back on the needle. So I know that this terrifies a lot of knitters, and I really want you to gain in some confidence in this. So today I'm just going to get going with it here. We're going to pull the work off. The first thing I want to say is you can see when we look at these stitches are not going anywhere right now. Unless you really tug on these, pull on them, they're going to be fine. So that's the first thing I want to say is don't freak out when your stitches fall off the needle. We can easily pick them up even if we drop a stitch. I have other video tutorials, although I am going to purposely drop a few stitches here just to show you the process because sometimes it does happen. So I want to go over contingencies. So I'm just going to pull out a few rows here. And let's see. I'll do one more. Now, I'm going to stop, and I am not going to pull out the very last stitch. I'm going to do that after I get all the other stitches back up on the needle. Now, I'm a righty, so I'm going to pick the stitches up from right to left with my right-hand needle because that's the way I'm dominant. If you're a lefty, you would hold the picking up needle in your left hand, and you would do the same thing, although you'd be coming in the front of the stitch. So I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. For us who are right-handers, we're going to come in with the right needle tip from behind the stitch. It's important that we come in from back to front. Now you can see this next stitch, he's a little small and kind of sideways. So I'm just going to put my needle in there, kind of yank up on him just a little bit. And sometimes I'll do this with my thumb and index finger, kind of pinch the stitch so I can get in there. Same thing here, this guy's little. You can see the next three are good sized. This guy's a little small. So I'm just going to pull up very gently because I don't want to pop the next door neighbor out. So I will just come in from back to front. Now, sometimes you'll get stitches that just don't want to cooperate. They just don't want to go on from back to front. Here's my thought. Just pick the darn thing up. We can change the mount. So if we need to do these, picking them up from the front even though we shouldn't be, don't worry about it. Okay, it's better to get the stitch up on the needle and be able to fix it on the next row than to just leave it hanging in mid-air. So now I'm on the knit portion. Those were purl stitches. Now I'm on the knit portion. And what I'm going to do here is to purposely drop a stitch because sometimes that does happen. So what I'm going to recommend is that a lot of times if you're picking it up, you'll say, oh no, I got to drop stitch, what am I going to do? And you'll try to go in there and pick it up. I recommend that you not do that, and here's why. So if I go in here and I kind of snake this through and I pull a little too hard, then I'm chasing this all the way down. In other words, I'll rescue this one, but this one will pop out. So what I recommend you do is just pick up the loop, again, from back to front, and we'll come back and we'll pick that up in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to work to the end here. Now on this very last stitch, this you have to pull pretty gently or you can pull out the, there, I got that. I popped it in just the right way, I think. Although I'm not going to be able to catch it, so I'm going to just undo that. But because I watched it, I can see that I need to come in the front of that stitch right there. So I'm just going to re-knit that stitch. Okay, now, so we've got things back up here, sort of. We have a few mismounted stitches, and we have that one dropped stitch, which you can see right here with that horizontal strand. So a lot of times what I will do is I will slip my way back across, either work or slip my way back across on this because our sample is small. We're just going to slip, and I'm going to make sure that all of my stitches are properly mounted. And what if I accidentally kind of split a stitch? Let me do that here. Where I got it up there, but a couple of the strands didn't get caught. Fix all of that when you come across to slip. So these all look great. These are great. Now I get to this stitch, and on this stitch I can see that that is improperly mounted. Let me just back up and say a properly mounted stitch in knitting, if we look at this stitch, we can see that the front leg is forward or closer to the tip of the needle than the back leg, and that is a properly mounted stitch. On this next stitch, the back leg is actually closer to the tip of the needle and the front leg is back over on the left. That is an improperly mounted stitch. So I would just put my needle in there, then come around, bring the left needle tip into the front of that stitch, and now you can see, yes, that's properly mounted. Next stitch, also an improper mount. So I'm just going to come behind the back leg with my right needle tip and slip it off. To fix that, same thing. I've got one more like that, and I'm going to come in behind and fix it. And there's a split. I think you can see it. So I'm just going to come and fix that, get all the strands properly aligned. Okay, so now we come across here. That guy looks fine, although I got a little split there. And in my estimation, friends, splits are ugly, so always take the time to fix a split stitch. This one looks fine. This one looks fine. Let's see where this next guy, okay, that's our dropped stitch. So I want to show you how to pick up a dropped stitch when it's just one row beneath with your needle tips. In this case, I want to transfer or slip the stitch from the left needle tip to the right needle tip, but I want to go in knitwise. So I'm going to come in knitwise. Then I'm going to take the right needle tip and just dip that needle under the horizontal strand. And then to rescue this, it's like a bind off. I skip over the first stitch, come into the second, bring it up, over, and off. Now, this stitch needs to be reset. So I take it back over here and then slip it. And I'm going to slip this one and this one, and then I have my last one. So that was frogging and picking up, and hopefully having seen some of these little anomalies that happen, this is going to give you a little bit of confidence in being able to do this with your own work. And I want to say again, I encourage you to do a little gauge swatch like this. I think this is a 14 stitch, and I do garter stitch on one side and stockinette on the other. And this gives you opportunity to work with both knit and purl stitches, and you're not hazarding your garment that you're working on. In some of these things that, some of the videos, make yourself a little sample and tear them up, drop some stitches and pull out your work and experiment with it. And you'll find that you'll really gain in confidence when you start doing some of these things. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Give it a go. Let me know how you do. As always, if these are helpful, please consider subscribing. Thanks a lot.